Yes, yesterday.
So no matter what, it's our freedoms that we have to protect. And that's what we're talking about here.
That's right.
If we are in a bigger trouble right now than ever in history. I look at what's going on. I'm 47 years old. I remember the Carter administration.
Sorry about that.
I remember the Reagan administration. I remember what's gone on since then, and I studied what's gone on in the past. And there's been no time in history, none, where we have been under attack like we are today. And that's because it's financial. And if we don't solve that problem from the inside out, because I know you and me and everybody else can't afford to continue to spend on credit cards, so if we don't solve this problem from the inside out, our dollar's going to fall.
Isn't it falling now? I mean, isn't our value already dollar already devalued by what, 30 cents?
Absolutely, it is falling. That's why the cost of gas is so high, and that's the cost of fuel is part of why we're having revolutions in foreign countries.
Sure,
we're the Garden of Eden for the entire world. Our food supply feeds billions of people around the world.
Well, and isn't
it costs to transport it?
Let me ask you this, Bob. Isn't that also part of the problem? Aren't a lot of the riots being caused as a result of inflated costs of food?
Absolutely, and that's because of the cost of transportation of food.
There we go. Doug?
So it's a vicious cycle, and part of this is globalization. And when you get into globalization, that really, the first time I ever heard that brought out was under President.
It's okay.
The first president,
Bush?
Bush, yes.
Okay.
He said of New World Order.
Right.
That was the first time I've ever heard that said. And since then, we've been heading for this, well, we've got to go globalization. We've got to go globalization. Bill Gates came out in front of the Congress and said that we need to actually get and bring in people on temporary worker visas for 1 to 5 years while we educate our kids in these new programs so that I can build plants here. Congress said no. He opened up major plants in India and China. What's going on? That's globalization. That has to stop. What's with the trade imbalance? That's got to stop. We no longer need to be paying people so we can export our goods. If they want to bring them here and we want to ship them there, we're going to balance it out. It's very simple if we go back to the original concept of nation states. I'm not talking about eliminating the idea of international trade. I'm talking about bringing back pride in America, because that's going to start people back on the track of proper financial security.
Well, let me ask you this question, Mr. Sorry, Bob. Listen, I'm not going to insult your intelligence by asking you what qualifies you to run for office, because I think as an American and as a citizen, increased greatly by the fact that you served, and God bless you for that. You have the ability to run, and you're qualified based on that. But what would be a reason why people would say, okay, we need to give Mr. Sauerwein our vote. We need to quit voting for the status quo, the incumbent, and go with somebody that 99% of the people you're asking to vote for have never heard of.
What I'm asking people to look at is the truth. What I'm asking people to look at is, what has Norm done? Sure, he's brought a lot of pork barrel spending here, but has it really gone to benefit the local people? What I'm asking people to do is say, what I am about is the same thing they are. I'm struggling the same way they are. And yes, I'm going to fix the problem. I'm not going to walk around it. I'm not going to pork barrel spend it. I'm going to fix the problem. And in fixing the problem, it's going to open the door.
Well, and many of us can appreciate that.
People want a chance for prosperity. That's what I'm going to bring them.
Absolutely.
So let me ask this question: Are you for sure? I mean, let me just get that out of the way. Are you in the deliberation stage where you're thinking, I might run, I might not run, I haven't decided yet? Have you decided for sure that you're going to run? Is it something you have a final decision on as of now, or are you still kind of in the deliberation stage?
I knew this question would come.
Of course.
And when I talked with my committee, they said, you better tell them what we're thinking. And what we're thinking right now is yes. However, and let me put this caveat on it, we have to raise a certain amount of money by May 1st.
And what kind of money are we looking at?
When we hit that money goal, we're going to start being able to go to the federals, the NRCC, and to the state party and the local parties, and they've already said they'll back us, but they want a certain amount of money.
Robert, when you're talking about money, and you've brought this up several times, what certain amount of money are you guys looking for, and have you approached the Tea Party in getting behind you?
Yes, I've actually talked to Carl Pike, who's in charge of the Pierce County Tea Party and local Tea Parties here, and they're all excited about it. We're setting up times for me to come and talk to them. When it comes to a certain amount of money, by May 1st, I'm looking at $100,000. By the end of summer, it has to be at $250. At $250, both the federal and the state will say we have a serious candidate.
Does
Norm, after 34 years, I am sure his war chest is up around $30 million. So there's no doubt in my mind he's got an enormous war chest.
Bob, we pointed this out in the last election, and I'm sure you're right. I'm sure he has an enormous war chest, but he seems to have one overwhelming tactic that seems to somehow work well for him, and that is he just pretends like he's not really running. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, he just...
he hasn't had to worry about it till now.
Right. He doesn't run commercials. He has very few signs that go up, very few volunteers.
Well, if you remember correctly, in the last election, he was even really, really difficult for them to get him into any kind of open debate, open forums with Cloud, and they eventually settled on, 2 of them, I think it was, maybe 3? But from what I understand, it was like pulling teeth to get him to agree to do that.
Well, and a couple he didn't even show up for. So
yeah, Norm has never worried about anybody since he's gotten in office. And here's one of the things: statistically speaking, if you in this district, if you win Pierce County and you win Kitsap County, you win the election. That's just numbers.
Right.
Now, having said that, Norm's security has always been the unions throughout a lot of it in Pierce County. I'm a card-carrying union member, and I'm proud to be so.
Again, I apologize for that, but I have to make one thing very clear, Bob. Come on, that was a joke. You guys can give me a courtesy laugh on that one.
What?
I said I apologize for being a card-carrying union member. Anyway, the point... I have to play devil's advocate here just for a second. Now, I am the extreme conservative here.
Yes, you are.
On the show, and I am completely proud of it.
In other words, he's your ally.
So, but I, Bob, am going to play devil's advocate here for a minute, and I need you to just kind of play along with me, okay? Sure. Norm Dix has done an incredible job, because we all know that if it wasn't for Norm Dix, we would have no military bases at all in Kitsap County and probably the Puget Sound. So doesn't he deserve a ton of credit for doing all of that all by himself?
Yes, but he didn't do it all by himself. And absolutely right. He does deserve all the credit he's done for the work he's done. I applaud anybody who's willing to help the military. But when was the last time you went on the base and looked at the base housing?
Well, I could take that a step further, because, we had this big disaster on September 11th, 2001, and here in Kitsap County, we actually had pieces of said disaster travel into Kitsap County. And you know what Norm Dix did for the thousands of people that showed up at the location where those pieces of the 9/11 disaster, do you know what Norm Dix did for everybody that showed up there that day?
Same thing Patty Murray did, by the way.
Sent a representative.
Well, and, wait, you can't really fault him on that.
Oh, yes, I can.
Yeah, we both can.
Yeah, we can absolutely
even our
fault him.
commissioner, Josh Brown,